Obi-Doo, it's everyone's favorite boomer and vintage lens enthusiast, and today we're going to look at the Tokina SD11-20 F2IF DX. It's a ATX Pro. It's a spherical. It says a spherical on it somewhere. Yeah, it's spherical. I bought this lens brand new, like for $550 back in the end of 2015. Yeah, because I had technolust. See, I had the other one, the 11 to 16 f2.8, I believe it is. And I bought that brand new, like for $500, and that was back in November of 2007. Of course, I learned my lesson now. I only try and buy used stuff because this lens costs $500, but I could buy five $100 vintage lenses for the price of this. Of course, I see these used between $200 and $300, depending on the condition. That's just the way I roll now. This isn't a vintage lens, but it's definitely a classic, because I'm doing this review in 2023, and you're talking, this lens is 8 years old, it's still in production. It's on the Canon mount. I have it on the Rebel T1i, which is a fine camera. And the price of these bad boys, these cameras have come down too in the used market, because everyone's dumping their DSLR for the mirrorless cameras now. And these were fine cameras, and they held their value for a long time, $200-300. And now with the mirrorless cameras and everyone's switching over, you get these in excellent, like, new condition for $100 with a battery and a charger, and they're well worth it. It's an excellent shooting machine. It has a movie mode. It'll do 720 all day long. If you go into 1080, it kills the battery like really super quick. So it will do 1080, but you got to have the AC adapter to use it. But this isn't the review much about this camera, but I'm going to go into little details. It has an excellent resolution, but no articulate screen. The screen is just, on the back of the camera, and that's it. But it does take excellent, outstanding pictures. The autofocus works like 90% of the time with this lens, although it still spoofs once in a while. If you're taking a critical picture, you should always review your picture in case you have to take another one. This has an autofocus, manual focus clutch. The lens, that's autofocus, right? And then the camera goes, takes over. And then you push it in and you can manual focus it. But the depth of field is so hard. Even with the focus confirmation light lights up, you're really not sure what you're doing. And then I find, look, here's the infinity mark. The infinity mark goes all the way from here to there. So what does that tell you? That, well, probably under varying temperature conditions, everything changes. It's all plastic except for the mount. The mount is metal. It comes in all different configurations. This one came with the Canon. Everything works. EXIF data goes over. So there's that. That's great. It's a massive piece of glass. It's massive. And you know what? It's better than the 2.8. Definitely, without a doubt. It's sharper. It's faster. It has a different ratio. It goes from 14 to 20, where the other one goes 11 to 16, I believe. And it's a stop faster. And it's a fine architectural lens. You want to go to a city or the city. The city is New York City. I live so close by. I used to go all the time. Now I'm scared to go because it's a lawless town. And it's got problems, 2023 problems, I'm not going to go into. But you could go to any city, a small city, a cramped city, and you can get really excellent wide-angle views. Now, distortion, it has very little distortion. It's a little bit complex. But these wide-angle lenses have the distortion of perspective. That's where lines meet at infinity. So if you point this camera at a building and you're looking up, well, the top of the building is going to want to, the parallel lines are going to meet at infinity, and this exaggerates that. If you take a picture down the street and then you zoom up on the central portion of that, there's really no distortion because all the lines are either going to be perpendicular and parallel to each other, and there's not going to be that forced perspective distortion, which you just can't get away with in our reality. So I paid full retail for this from one of the superstores in the city because I had technolust and I had to have it, and I'm glad I got it. I use it a lot for astronomy. It works really great if you want to do like nighttime sky shots. I highly recommend it. It doubles up for landscape. I haven't done too much landscape. I do a lot of city shots with it. I'm very pleased with it. Wide open, it's an excellent performer. And of course, stop down to 2.8, 4, 5.6, and 8. It's great. 11 and 16 are there, but you always get some diffraction effects, and it actually gets a little bit softer. Nowhere is it sharp, but nowhere is it really excessively blurry. That's just a diffraction. You can't get away with that. So like I said, you can find excellent examples between $200 and $300 used, and I highly recommend that you go get one of these. You can't go wrong. And if you want to pick up a really decent DSLR, the Rebel T1i, and like brand new condition with a battery and a charger, it's like $100, maybe less. And this is a really excellent camera. It takes excellent Canon DSLRs always took excellent pictures. They didn't have too much. They had the basic stuff in the menu, which I'm not going to go through. It's the typical Canon menu. It did have some advanced features like high ISO noise reduction and long exposure reduction, and you could adjust the picture saturation, contrast, or sharpness at how you like it, and it recognizes lenses. If you put Canon lenses on there, there's a lookup table. It says, oh, you put this Canon lens on it, and it does some computational correction to whatever flaws that lens has. Well, guess what? It recognized this lens. When I put it on, it recognized that's 14 to 20, and it would do like automatic vignetting, adjusting, because it does roll off on the corners a little bit, and maybe some chromatic or lateral color adjustments, and that helps a lot too. So Tokina probably paid a licensing fee to Canon, and they put some sort of lookup table so it recognizes it. So that's a plus. So I got a lot of nice things to say about the T1i. It's a fine still camera, and like I said, it'll do 720 or 480 movies all day long if you had a couple batteries. But the 1080 mode, oh my God, it'll kill a battery in 5 minutes. So that's scary. That's the only downside. And it has a live mode. So if you push this button and go into live mode, it acts like a mirrorless camera, except that you got to view it on this screen. So I guess if you want to do movies or you're on a tripod or something, it's great to go with that. I prefer the viewfinder and bright light, and I came up through the ranks because I'm a boomer and regular SLR, so I don't mind using the DSLR screen here. But it's a nice touch, and you could it's got fine on-screen focusing, and you can magnify the focusing to tweak it in really good. It's a nice sharp screen. It's not rough or scruffy or anything. You'll have to take my word for that. And so like I said, this is an excellent camera, and I bought this brand new. This is like, I don't know, $600 or $700. I was stupid back in the day. I had technolust, and I just had to have it. But now I know better, and I pick up things used all the time. There's a place down in Smyrna, Georgia. That's where I go to get all my used stuff. And I get their excellent grade, or excellent plus, or like new, and I've been very happy with them. We all know who they are, Smyrna, Georgia. I don't have to say their name. I mean, if they pay me, I'll say their name, but since they're not, I won't. But, following is going to be some pictures. I went to a couple different towns, and I did some photos, and you be the judge. And as usual, it's going to be this is a 3:2 format, so I cropped them to 16:9 to fit this screen ratio, and then you saw the full frame, a reduced crop, and then I did a 1:1 16:9 grab of a corner, some area of interest, so you could compare it, and then you decide yourself. But remember, if you got to have it and you need it new, well, you could spend the big bucks or do what I recommend, pick one up used. You can't go wrong. Nice, excellent lens, great for, and it takes the spot of a 14 to 20 millimeter, without a doubt. An f2 is fast and for low light level, and for astronomy or any sort of dimly lit situations, you can't go wrong with this lens. So go get one. Oh, and as a special note, I'm taking this movie with the Canon f4 17 millimeter FD mount, extreme classic. It's got a radioactive element. I spent 2 weeks with it under ultraviolet light to de-yellow it, and I think this is a fine lens too, which we're going to see a review of that later. All right, so let's jump right to the picture, shall we? I live in the great state of New Jersey, and I go to these towns that I live nearby. Some of them are scary, and I'm sure you heard of them, like Patterson. I would never go to Patterson. But there are other towns that are safe and pleasant to go to. And I usually like to go there once a month or every 6 weeks to see what stores closed up and, what new places are open. And, these main streets in New Jersey used to be the place where you went to go shop. But now with the big box stores and online ordering, all these stores are closing down. Some of them have been there for as long as I can remember, and others come and go a couple of months, a couple of years, and that's it. And then you watch the ethnicity of the stores change from, say, English speaking to some other language, and that's amazing. But that's part of living in New Jersey. And all these towns, they're old. If you look at New Jersey was one of those towns that was mixed, states that was mixed up in the Revolution. And a lot of these towns are old towns, founded in the 1700s and 1800s. And a lot of other towns are much newer, especially when you go west. More west you go, the more newer the towns are. So these old towns were laid out when people had horses and buggies, and the streets are all, weird angles and everything, whereas the newer towns are laid out in a grid. So it's got some quaintness. A lot of these towns are going through urban renewal, and they're knocking down all the old stuff. And a lot of the buildings are only like 100 years old or less, and they're just getting rid of them, putting up a big box, concrete monstrosities. And I'm trying to capture that as a part of photojournalism. But I can also use that to demonstrate the capabilities of these lenses I have. And then you could decide, do I want to get one of these lenses or don't I? Now, this is a super wide angle. 14 to 20, even on a crop sensor, that's rather wide angle. Now I go to these towns, I try to get there early, like dusk or right before dawn, so I could shoot wide open. And then if the sun comes up, and I get to stop down, and if I walk up the street, maybe it's at twilight in the morning, and I walk back, the sun is just up, and then you can see the lighting changes. So I'll take a picture of a building in twilight and then right at sunrise, and then you can see what happens, what's this all about. And all right, these pictures are only being shown every 5 seconds, and you could click on the playback speed, make it 1.25, 1.5 or 2x, and then you can always click pause when you see a picture you want to look at, and then you could look at what was the EXIF data, or like that. You don't have to listen to my rambling mumble jumble at all, but I hope you do. So yeah, I like Pompton Lakes. It's a nice town. You can walk up down the streets. You don't have to worry about being tall, chalked, or knifed by young thugs or hoodlums. So that's nice. And this is a really great lens. The Tokina 14 to 20 millimeter f2 is a really fine lens. It holds up, 10 megapixel, 12 megapixel, 15 or 16 megapixel, no problem. Go ahead, use it, shoot it. Discover how you want to use it, not just how I used it. Oh, here's the Funhouse Mirror building. I always like to take a picture of that. They always have these art canvases out. There must be an art school there, and people make their art and they hang it on a fence and for you to enjoy. They have a monument to the Maine. Remember the Maine? They have one of the ventilation tubes, and I don't know where this Liberty Bell came from, but they got one. I never heard it ring. I don't know if they have a ceremony where someone hits it with a rubber mallet or something. But it's on a little island of where three roads meet, sort of. That's part of the Maine right there. And then they have a Revolutionary War cannon. I guess it's authentic. The cannon is. I'm sure the wheels have been remade. And of course, I like to take pictures of these historic marker signs, because New Jersey was the crossroads of a revolution, or so they say. And it's just a pleasant town to go to in the morning and watch the lighting change. And I don't do people. I try to avoid people. Unless I'm at a festival or something, and then I get into the crowd thing where you can take pictures of people. And if you're at a festival, you have no expectation of privacy in a festival at all. And reflections in buildings. This is mirrored glass, so I couldn't resist taking pictures of it. I don't know if there's someone on the other side watching me, but if you go somewhere like off business hours, chances are there's no one there. So you see, I went there at twilight, and now I'm walking back, and the sun is up, and then there's different lighting and different exposures, and you get to see how this lens handles. And it does seem to have some complex distortion, but it has the distortion of perspective. And it's hard to hold the camera and get it perfectly, everything straight in a viewfinder, because the image is sort of small. So I do rotate the camera a little bit, but it's really hard to get the right perpendicularity or parallelism. I like this little donkey cart or something, and a milk jug or whatever. There's some quaint stores in this town I always walk by. This animal hospital, I guess they're open. The light's on, so if the lights are on, they must be open, although I've never been there. I go to some place local. But it's interesting they have paw prints on the front of the building. Animal hospital. And of course, all towns have their train tracks, because in the olden days, the trains used to be how everything got moved. So enough of Pompton Lakes moving to Morristown, which is nicknamed Motown East. And of course, I got there right before sunrise, and I took some pictures. Of course, I wanted to, this thing is f2. Is it usable at f2? Yes, it's very usable at f2. Extremely usable. It's a usable lens. It's worth every penny, whether you buy one new or get one used. I bought mine new when I was like a crazy person. But now, I figure I've controlled my techno lust, and I thought about it. You have techno lust, you want to get this one piece of technology, it costs X amount of dollars, but if you buy a whole bunch of used things, old technology, well then you could get like 4 or 5 times of what this one piece costs, and that's what I do. Now Morristown is a rich town, and they have all these massive stone churches. They look like bunkers or something. Well, this is the post office. They seem to be renovating it, and I guess those scaffolding will be up for years or whatever. But these massive churches are all over. They're Christian churches, but different denominations. And they all got their steeples. And it's a cool town in that respect, that you can walk around and see all this different architecture. See, here's a different church. And they're all sort of historic now. A lot of them are 100 years old or so, or more. And, so they still got their congregations there, I guess. And then, they have these new, more ultra-modern boxes all glass and steel, and they have knocked down the old row buildings, and they put up these new buildings. And you can watch the town change. This is a brand new building. It's not even open yet. It took them like 18 months to build it up or something. And this guy, Chef Freddy's Table, suffered all while they were building it. But he's still there, so I guess he has a clientele that really likes him. These parking garages have been there for as long as I can remember. They look new, but they're not. Here's some crepuscular rays. The sun was right below the horizon. There's been some clouds, and it was shooting up, the rays, which is pretty cool. And there's just different stores and, daycare centers and all sorts of weird pubs that you can walk around and check out and see what's changing. Like this pub's been there for a long time. I don't think they'll ever go out of business. And here's this church has been there for a long time. I guess they'll never go out of business. St. Peter's Episcopal Church. Another one of these massive stone churches. Heraldic heroic plaque for the people of World War I. And I used that to test all my lenses. They had these puffy white flowers. And this is a detail of the decorative railing they had around it. They have a reflection pool, and the church is across the street. But you can see this is a really nice lens. It takes really excellent pictures. It's sharp. It's you can adjust the contrast to whatever you like. You could adjust the saturation to whatever you like. You could boost the sharpness and do all that good stuff. I don't read Chinese, so I don't know what that means. Maybe it means cottage. I don't know. So a lot of churches have red doors. I noticed that. So when I walk by and it looks interesting, the lighting is funky, or I take a picture. So when the sun comes up, it hits some buildings full on, but then others are broken up by the tree line or other nearby buildings, and it makes for some interesting contrasts. Yeah, there's a lot of different stores. They got a lot of different interesting windows to look into. And they do change. Some have been there, both these places have been there for quite a while. But some come and go real quick. These birds, these Canadian geese just flew over, and I only had a second to put it at 20 millimeters, take your picture, and boom, that was it. Cluck you chicken, it's an addiction. Huh? How about that? This is relatively new. I went there one day and I said, oh, where'd this come from? But they seem to be sticking around. And then they have these wide expansive walls, and you always see silhouettes on them. And that changes as the sun moves across the sky. But it's a good lens. You should get one of these. Tokina's not paying me. I wish they would. I just bought this lens. Oh, I read reviews about it. First, I read reviews about the 11 to 16 2.8 when that came out in 2007. I went and got one, and I was satisfied with it. And then 7 or 8 years later, when it came out with this, the 14 to 20, oh, I had to get that too. And of course, I'm glad I got them. I wish I could have got them cheaper. There are, a lot of them around. A lot of people don't know how to use lenses. They get a lens, they think they want to use it, and they say, I don't like it. Because they don't know how to use it or what it's for, the application, or, you just got to stick with it. And besides, it's all electronic. You get a picture that didn't come out good, you just erase it, it's gone. So if you take 100 good pictures, 100 bad pictures, here's the 3 terrorists. If you take 100 bad pictures and 1 good picture, well, no one has to see your bad pictures, just the good ones. But then you study your good picture and say, oh, what went right there? And you're trying to emulate that. And the more good pictures you got, well, then the more experience of a photographer you are. But that's my philosophy. You say, oh, a photographer, what is your philosophy? It's take pictures or die. That's my philosophy. And Morristown is like they're knocking down buildings and putting up new buildings. And I try and go there, like I say, once a month, every 6 weeks, every 2 months, and see what's changing. And, even the buildings, what's gone up, what's different, what's changed, just stays the same. The bottom dollar is get one of these. You'll be glad you did.